are on the wonderful Dreamcatcher with Daisy running around the front, Roscoe here, and more importantly, Stephanie and Jake. Tell us, where do we start? I don't even know.
We have both been strong believers of what's called the power of intention and the power of paying attention. And that's where the story sort of starts. So the power of intention is about being very specific about what you put out into the world, how you speak, what you intend to have happen for yourself, and then you obviously have to go through the steps to make that happen. And paying attention to what you say. If you say something's going to be hard, it's always going to be hard. If you say something's going to happen, and focus on that, you figure out how to make it happen.
Sounds wonderfully true.
And so I'd always, most of my adult life wanted to live on a boat and go sailing and sort of retire that way. Yeah. And after Stephanie and I got married, we talked about it, and she sort of started to share the interest. And so,
like, that sounds pretty awesome.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
So, we started talking more seriously about it, and we had a friend of ours named Daniel, and he said to us one day, he said, we got to pick a date. You've been saying for the past 3 years, you've been saying 5 or 6 years.
If you don't pick a date, it's always going to be 5 to 7 years. So pick one. And so we sat down and we were like, all right, August 31st, 2020. That gave us 5 years to do it. Yeah. And we told everybody by August 31st, 2020, we're sailing away from California. Or
there's accountability.
Yeah.
Again,
and everybody we told.
And that comes back to the power of intention, right? We had no idea how we were going to do it, but you make the proclamation and then you figure it out.
Right.
Love it.
Same way I started my businesses. I'm going to do it. How? I don't know, but we're going to do it.
So the pressure's on.
Yeah.
Right.
So the pressure's on. So, and we start going through the boat, narrowed it down to a few brands. I'm also a very visual person by my nature. And so I went online and I just grabbed a picture off of Yacht World of a boat. And I put it on my computer screen and I put it on my phone as that,
Oh, nice.
in the morning you get to the office and you're like, I don't want to be here. Oh, that's why I'm here. I'm getting it done.
So then we decided we were going to book a trip down here. So right now we're in St. Lucia. This is actually, Marigot Bay is super special to us because we flew into St. Lucia. While we were down here, we're like, looking at the boats around us, and we're like, one day.
We literally stayed in that little hotel over here. That was our first stop.
We're like, we're gonna stay here sometime on our boat. So we go looking at boats, and I said, I'm gonna call my broker and tell him we're here and set up an exact time. And I said, my broker's name's JP. And Jake's like,
it's the same JP that we happened to meet in Martinique that I thought was my broker the whole time.
And he goes, well, I meet JP too. And I said, oh, that's really interesting. And Jake pulls up on his computer the boat. And I said, that's my boat. He goes, no, this is the boat I'm going to look at. And so it kind of became this funny thing. Like, we both thought we were seeing 2 separate boats in Guadeloupe.
Yeah.
Turns out we were only going to see one.
Well, it's a good job you did that before you started competing on price.
Absolutely. So we go and look at the boat and we love it, and we decide it's the boat we're going to make an offer, and we eventually close on. It's the same boat that I put on my computer.
No.
Exact same boat.
Not the same model.
I actually just got tingles.
This is the boat that was on the computer and the phone the whole time.
The whole time.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's still his backdrop on his phone. Like 3 phones later, it's still the same exact same picture. Because it's like that. If you believe it, you speak it, you can make it happen, right? Yeah. So, and after we saw Dreamcatcher, she was named something else, obviously. Of course. We're leaving the dock, and Jake said, what would you want to name her? And I was like, I don't know. Like, my mind's whirling with the fact that she's got so many of the things that were important to us that we wanted to do. And he goes, well, what about Dreamcatcher? And I was like, oh my gosh, I love it. Tingles all over, like goosebumps. I was like, that's the name. So, we, like Jake said, buy the boat. We're in contract. She's in Guadeloupe, but we have to get her here to St. Lucia because it's hurricane season coming. So my dad decides to fly out, meet the captain. He's going to move the boat for us. So Dad's on the passage, whatever time frame it is, and he sends me this text message that says, hey, I was on watch last night and a name came to me for the boat. And I was like, great, this is going to be fantastic. What is it? Please tell me. And he's like, it should be Dreamcatcher. And so I promptly called him and I was like, haha, really funny. Jake told you that we're going to name her Dreamcatcher. And he's like, what are you talking about? No, I have no idea. Because we were at the naming ceremony, we were scared to tell people what we were going to name the boat. So anyway, he's like, no, I didn't know that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a sign. At the same time they were moving the boat, our friend Bear, who was making the Dreamcatcher that hangs in our salon,
yes,
was actively working on the Dreamcatcher, praying over it, adding trinkets to it while they were moving the boat. So like all of this stuff is happening, and I've got goosebumps again. It's not cold here at all. So it was just kind of this, weird, coincidence. And we're like, okay,
that's what you wanted to be named.
Obviously she wanted to be named Dreamcatcher. Like she told Jake, I, had a very physical reaction to it. She told my dad.
And I sent Stephanie a text that said, I'm having some crazy thoughts. And she said, what? And then she came home that night. We talked about it for all of a half an hour. Then it was 6 months of chaos of figuring how to dismantle our lives down there and wind up here on the boat.
Yeah. We made it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's it, because dismantling a life in 6 months is quite ambitious. Like,
especially when you own a business
insane.
and, all this stuff, like, it was really, really intense. Like we, I think, worked pretty much 6 months straight, 14, 15-hour days. And we would take a day off, like when we physically couldn't move anymore.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah. And the original plan was to start a construction company in St. Martin, and that kind of fell apart because the seller, turned out he had some fairly substantial tax ramifications if he sold it, due to how he bought it, apparently. And so that sort of, came apart. But, the world guided us into doing charters, which we're much happier doing.
Yeah.
No exaggeration. I was closing and locking the door, running to get in the shower, to get in the car, to make my way to the airport, to fly here to get on the boat.
Yeah. Wow. Absolutely crazy.
Stephanie, managing getting the crane there in the next couple of days to get the thing moved, and then getting the animals on a plane and meeting us in St. Martin. It was
mad chaos.
Bonkers.
Mad chaos.
Sounds so easy and relaxed.
Yeah. It was so crazy. But it worked out. And now here we are back in like the bay where we sat there and we're like,
that's going to be us one day.
That's going to be us, like.
And one day is here.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
And that was only 3.5 years ago. But it was super cool to get here early and, now be doing something that we absolutely love so much.
So when did that transition take place? So you came down with the plan of setting up shop.
Yeah, so we were in St. Martin for 6 months, I guess.
The long and the short of that was, ran around, did a couple small projects. I was at a point in time when they were recovering from a hurricane, and things had settled down, and the reality of what they wanted to pay skilled craftsmen was surprisingly low.
Yeah, for sure.
So we can make a lot more money taking people sailing.
Well, this thing, you guys clearly love it. Yeah, I was going to say, you clearly love doing that more than anything else. It's so obvious. It shines through you,
I never would have thought, like, I could have found a job where I could nurture people, take care of them, cook, and, like, swim in the ocean every single day and get paid for it. And we do, and it's absolutely wonderful.
But that's it. You've said a phrase to me, actually, which I think sits perfectly to that, which is, if you were to complain, because there's going to be sucky days and it's pouring down in the rain and everything else, and I'm going to get the phrase wrong, but it was effectively, if you complain.
So what I said, if people will ask me how I was doing even through COVID, and I said, if I were to complain, there's a long line of guys that would smack me right in the mouth.
Perfect. And it does sum up. You're kind of living the dream in that respect.
Absolutely. Well, and like even through COVID and stuff, when we were like, hanging out in a bay much like this, we're like, wow, this could be a lot worse.
Absolutely.
2 weeks quarantine on the boat in this beautiful place where we can, hang out. Like,
that's hard
if you complain about that, people are just not going to be happy with you.
Totally. The other thing I was actually saying to Bryony the other day was that you'll have your, whatever it is, even you guys' job, your business, making videos, doing things you do, you'll have your hard days, your hard weeks where you're, in crunch time getting things done.
Yeah.
And then when you decide to take a day off, you're already where most people try to go on vacation.
Yeah.
As soon as you get up.
Yeah.
Wake up and step off the mat.
Yeah. You're like, we're here. We're here.
No
We didn't
plane
have to fly. We didn't have to schedule 2 weeks off to go someplace cool.
Yeah.
We can just say, like, we're going to take
5 minutes when you need it, or a day when you need it, or a week if you've got it.
Yeah. Like, we're going to take a day or two off and go, like, tour around this beautiful island and see what's here, and then get back at it.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to ask into, because I'm really interested, and you've hinted towards it, again, we've not known enough of the story up to now, so it's good. So you clearly have a kind of charitable mindset and heart. You've carried that on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have our Dreams Come True program. And Dreams Come True was started last year.
Literally by accident.
Yeah. So
What?
So our Jake's longtime friend, and he and his fiance, she was diagnosed with end-stage pancreatic cancer. And last November, and we'd said to them, if you ever want to come hang out on the boat, let us know. And so she wrote to me and she said, "Did you really mean what you said?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So Jake and I talked about it and we're like, let's, get them here. So I think 2 weeks later or something like that, we had a hole in our schedule for 6 nights or something. So they came down and stayed with us, got engaged in St. John. Like we had this amazing trip with them. And we'd already talked about doing some kind of like once a year give back to the community, like in a bigger way. And so that kind of spurred this thing like, okay, let's do it. So this year, what we did is we actually reached out to the community through Facebook and Instagram and a newspaper and said, who do you know that's a single parent that would, deserves to have this trip? Who do you know that's maybe had a life-altering illness that, could never afford to come on this trip? And we found 2 people that we couldn't say no to. So we actually have 2 contestants there, 2 recipients this year. One is a woman from California who's got ovarian cancer. Her and her daughters and her husband are coming. And then a St. Thomas local who was in a really bad car accident, also single mom, and is going to be coming the end of April.
Yeah.
So we kind of spaced them a couple months apart so we could have some time to recuperate.
Yeah.
So the idea behind it is, we cover all of the charter costs. They have a 7-night charter just like anybody else would.
Yeah.
Okay.
Drinks, food, whatever. And then we did a fundraiser for airfare for the woman from California.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was super cool. So we have this wonderful community of people like, jumped in and donated money and made it possible for them to come. And then we'll pick up the rest of it on this end and give them an awesome vacation.
Yeah.
So
You're right. That's amazing.
yeah. We'll do it again next year.
And and that was, the challenging part, obviously, was you can imagine is selecting, this, because we got, quite a few nominations, as it were. And again, sort of the conversation of paying attention, because we, some of the feedback was, that should be a local person. And that hadn't, crossed our mind, really, and it's true, because, and we try very much to, even though we live on the boat and we live in the Caribbean, we're still very much guests here. This is not, where our heritage is, not where we're from. A large part of the reason why we decided to do a second one, and specifically pick someone from St. Thomas.
Yeah, so it's really super exciting, and
And it means that you get to share like your daily life. That's this incredible thing. It reminds you not to take it for granted. It reminds you to see it through eyes for the first time and all that as well.
Every guest that comes on board reminds us of something different, right? Like you've got the little kids who come on board and they're like, a dinghy ride? I get to go in a dinghy, and they're super excited and they want to go full throttle. And then there's, like the adults that are looking off the side and they're like, there's a turtle. Oh my gosh, did you see the turtle? And I'm like, yes, actually we're in a bay where you're going to see a lot of turtles. So like, not to like discount that turtle there, but like there's going to be like 10 or 15 of them that pop up in the next hour. So just keep your eyes open.
But Barry, and remember this, because it'll happen for you guys too. When you've been here for 6 months, years, and like anywhere you go, it becomes a little bit second nature, and you get accustomed to it. And then your mom or your dad or your friend will come, "Oh my God, the water's so blue," and you're like, "Oh yeah,
So it is.
Really well, thanks for the reminder."
Or seeing a sunset or whatever it is. It's like it reminds you how cool it is. Like Jake was saying, the worst days that we have, you still live in this amazing place. So we're entitled to have a bad day. I'm not saying that we can't, but you're reminded constantly of like the cool things that are around you.
Yeah.
And
very fortunate.
Super fortunate.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to know more about how you can come on board Dreamcatcher, check out their website in the description below. And if you'd like to see what we got up to while we were on board, take a look at our episode on Red Seas.
Just a demonstration of your charity.
Oh, I know, exactly.
The very fact we're here
was because we met you and about 30 seconds into meeting you, you were like, "Oh, what, you're homeless? Well, we've got a spare room."
You want to travel a couple hundred miles? No worries.
I'm telling you, we really wanted people that were going to do the night watch.
They say they can sail.
It's going to be good enough. It's going to be good enough. We're out in the middle of the ocean.
We're getting away with it. Keep it up.
Yeah, exactly. What could go wrong?
Nothing.